I'm Andy Green, and this is the Naked Man Podcast. This week's guest is Robert Panico, a friend, filmmaker, and explorer, the composer for the theme you've just heard. Before I'd even figured out what I was going to do with this show, I had this feeling that Rob was the man to provide our music. I reached out to Rob to compose a theme, and he was instantly on board, his unwavering support marshaling my bravery to push forward. I met Rob through the classic friends of a friend scenario, immediately welcome in his long-established friend group. We bonded through movie nights that Rob often hosted, and I've been a fan of his since seeing his Dark Knight Joker impression. What I love about Rob is that he's never shy about expressing his affection. For movies, absolutely, but especially for people. I, on the other hand, have always had trouble receiving compliments. I often don't believe them. I'm mistrustful of the motivation behind the compliment or suspect they're only saying what I want to hear. This mostly comes from a place of insecurity. I can't possibly deserve compliments. I don't like the attention, or I like the attention too much, and I never know how to respond. Early on in our friendship, Rob took my wife Lily and I aside at a party and delivered one of the best compliments we've ever received. Rob told us how wonderful we were together and that after a rough relationship, Lily and I gave him faith and love again. This felt like hyperbole, and it was hard for both of us to believe, but as we got to know Rob, we knew this wasn't a fake compliment. This was genuine, which is no surprise, as Rob is the most genuine and giving people I've ever met. Over the last year and a half, Rob is someone I've grown closer to without ever seeing his face. But I'm seeing it right now.
I'm looking at you, buddy.
He's one of those friends I'm excited to get to know further, to reach another level with. I hope today represents a step in that direction. And we're here, today, recording in person, seeing each other's faces for the first time since 2019, to explore a relatively new concept for me. Rob is an empath, someone deeply in tune and sensitive to the feelings of people around him. Lately, I've been wondering if I, too, am an empath. Together, we're going to explore what growing up as an empath was like for Rob, how it's affected and forged his relationships, and the deep feelings we both share. Robert Panico. Rob, welcome to the Naked Man Podcast.
You ready to feel a little more insecure? You were a wonderful conversationalist, and you're one of the best conversationalists I've ever met. So There's another compliment for you, man.
Oh, well, now we can just close the laptops.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I just come for, the compliment there. Well, thank you. I think I feel the same way about you. It's easy. It's actually amazing how many people you meet in your life that it's really hard to talk to.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times you think it's you, right? And then you realize, well, I think it goes both ways, right? And like we have a chemistry, and it has to go both ways.
It has, well, especially in the industry that we're in. I mean, film and media, and even the music industry. I mean, so many people, I feel like I meet them, and they want to know, like, cool, what do you do? Like, how can I put you in my Rolodex of people that I can work with? Whereas for me, like, I want to know the person, because there's always a person behind the art. And I've gone to a lot of parties where I've walked away feeling very lonely and disappointed because I'm talking to like the show people, not the actual person. I kind of walk away like,
The performer. Yeah. And LA is a town of performers, even if you're just, I'm a writer, but I feel like I've gone to so many network nights and I hate them.
Oh, they're awful.
But like, I find it a success if I can have one actual genuine connection where we talk about something beyond like, what are you working on? What am I working on? What are we complaining about today? Because that's all we do is complain, because no one's doing what we actually want to do. That's why we're at this network night.
That's what keeps you going, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of want to know in a way, like how badly are they doing? Because if you see them driving hard and you know that they're struggling, you're thinking, okay, they're still going. Am I not feeling bad enough? There's not enough like fire under my ass to get me to keep going.
Am I not working hard enough? That's what happens after every network night. You're right.
Oh yeah.
Well, so I think we're already in it here, and I was just going to ask you, like, how are you feeling in this moment? How are you doing?
At the moment, to be completely honest, a little bit lonely. A little bit of backstory. My girlfriend is back home with her family, and she's there for a couple of weeks, and it's just me and the cat. which, initially was thinking like, okay, this is going to be an interesting change. Like maybe I can just focus on projects and stuff. No, I've been an absolute turd. I am a classic extrovert. In other words, like my energy comes off of other people. Like I get my energy off of interacting with others.
So you're welcome.
Oh yeah, this is a godsend. Trust me. Having somebody come over right at the start of the vaccination period, like it's so nice. It's so nice to just have somebody over. I mean, I do have my introvert tendencies. I do like my alone time, especially if it's project based. If I'm editing, or especially if I'm composing, like I usually like to keep people out. Even the cat, I love her to death, but like if she starts purring and nuzzling, it's so cute. But I'm like, please piss off. I'm trying to figure out this chord progression. You're driving me nuts. So, yeah, that's the thing. My energy does come off of other people, and I think that has a lot to do with my empathic tendencies. I think because I'm getting energy out of them, and because of that, like I think my brain's thinking like digging deep, like like their energy is coming from something. Where's that coming from? What about their energy? Am I kind of also thriving off of? I think it's all kind of the part of the same brain complex. Right. I don't know if this is making any sense whatsoever.
I think it is. We're diving right in. And I think this is my thought was like, maybe you're also sort of feeling how the energy comes out in yourself. And then that maybe gives you a clue of where that person is or what they're feeling. Because, and I mean, we're sort of just jumping in and let's just do it. I'm feeling, I'll answer for myself really quick. And then this is a long ellipsis back to the other thing. Nice. I'm just excited, and it's cool. This is the first one I'm doing at your apartment. And you've already
the start of a new era. And
and you've already agreed to edit the episode.
Yeah.
So like a weight was just like, it's already gone. I'm free now.
Oh yeah.
And also I can just tell, like, I'm getting the excitement from you. So maybe that's already happening. I think because when I feel anxiety from people, it definitely comes out in me too. Does that happen for you?
100%. In fact, I can even give you a scenario. This is more for us industry people, but like for those of us who have ever been on set, you get there, like especially if it's a crew that you're not familiar with, you're kind of like, you're trying to read the room a little bit, and it's depending on the, especially if it's a large production when you got, everyone's running around doing a million different things, and then you get that one person who walks in, and usually it's the AD, the assistant director, and they're like, all right, guys, this is going to be, gathers everybody around. Like, I'm so excited for this production. We're going to kick ass. And you start to feel this like sense of unity and like this energy build. And you're thinking, hell yeah, I can do this. I'm going to get through this day. We're going to make an awesome project. At the same time, the opposite can happen when someone is just like, God, can you believe this? Like, why am I wasting my day? They're not even paying me that much. Like you hear someone talk like that, your energy immediately plummets to the ground because you're thinking, well, shit, am I in the same, if we're all in the same boat, if this guy's feeling bad, am I let me rephrase that. Like,
well, no, it's like infectious.
It's infectious. Like it only takes one person in a group to direct the entire energy of a team. And with the crew that I've worked with a lot in the recent years, like we try to filter those people out because they killed projects before. We will always finish the project, but we come out, limping because we're like, emotionally limping because we're like, that guy brought down the whole vibe, man.
It's so much more intense, or it's so much harder. Fighting negativity, because I think we all have it already.
We're all like already teetering on the edge of like a negative, overwhelming hole. Like there's a big negativity crater that we all live in, because we're all very tense, anxious people in general, especially in this industry, because we're trying to think, is this gonna lead to something more? Like, is this just gonna be a colossal waste of time? Or
and you're putting yourself in it, right? And it's sort of saying a lot about you, and you only get so many shots, all these different things.
Oh yeah, and always against the clock. Like the time is your biggest enemy, which I see why Christopher Nolan of all people focuses so much on time, because I think like that's just the thing we can never beat is time.
It is the ultimate enemy, and we created it, Rob.
But like, no, I think just in general, like especially if we're on a job somewhere, I mean, like you're always, all it takes is a little blow, and then someone can be tossed into that hole of negativity. Whereas I feel like it's so easy to get pushed into that hole. But what you need is like just someone to have their arm around your shoulder to keep you from teetering too far. Be like, come on, we got this, man. Like
right.
When that person enters the room, they're bursting with positive energy. Like everybody kind of yes ands everything.
Right.
It becomes infectious, like in a really, really good way.
In a way, you're almost sort of faking it too. It's that we make a joke, we force a joke, we get a laugh, or like we all admit that we're feeling anxious, but then that sort of takes out the anxiety, or like, oh, we put a label on it and we're all there, we're all together. And I'm thinking about like honestly softball right now, and all the teams that I've been on, and how negativity, I think actually in my whole life, I've always been trying to ward off negativity. And I think it's because I'm very sensitive to it, because like you, I think I'm always, one step into the crater, like you said. Yeah. And then if someone sort of pushes me there, not like that it's directed toward me, like, oh, Andy, you suck. It's just more like, oh no, like this person feels the same way. What if we all feel the same way? Yep. Our team is screwed, or today is going to suck. This class is going to suck, whatever it is. And it's just, I'm so anxious, and I even sort of try and defend against it in a way, but it's almost sometimes overreacting, because I'm just like, stop being negative, and then it's my fault in a way. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, especially group environment. I mean, this is perfect. We were just talking about coming together right at the end of a pandemic, right? Like how these group settings, the more people there are, that energy just is, continue the metaphor, super infectious. Oh my god! But so is positive energy.
Right.
Yeah. Positive energy doesn't even necessarily mean just like someone's like, yeah, we got this team. It can sometimes just be a sympathetic voice where someone's just like, hey, I know this is really rough. We're going to get through this. Tomorrow's another day. And like, sometimes you just need someone to hear you and empathize, be like, yeah, I feel the same way too, but let's get through this so that we can put this shit behind us. For me, especially on film sets, like once in a while, I just need to look at one of my partners, and all I need is just a little look in the eye, just a little twinkle of like, oh boy. And I'm like, yep, me too. And then suddenly like my energy is just like, I'm not alone here. This is FUBAR. I get it. Okay.
And you started, saying that you were feeling lonely, and it's all it takes is that look, or just that's the camaraderie, or that's the like, okay, we're in it together. Yep. And you stop feeling alone. Because I think loneliness is almost a corollary to negativity in a way.
Yes.
Because it's about you at that point, I think, because it's like, oh, you're worried about your career, or you're worried about your failure or your mistake, and you're not thinking that everyone else is there too, and that we can all sort of dig ourselves out of it. And also like someone else is going to make a mistake later. It's not just you. That was always for me the hardest part, because it was just like I could never get out of my mistake mind.
Oh, thought loops are the worst. I think it's one of the reasons why we bonded so quickly. I think you and I have the same mental property, that when we make a mistake, or if we even just a slight misstep, we'll play it back in our head over and over again and think like, did everybody notice that? Is everybody thinking that? Like, why can't I just hit rewind, just like go 15 seconds back and just undo that? That it would be so much better.
That's why I want to write it so it didn't happen. Like I'll have sleepless nights where I think about that, or like that makes me think of my first sort of foray in social things was like a little mini birthday thing, and I made sort of a mean joke at a friend, and I'm not someone who makes mean jokes, and it definitely didn't come off right. I basically called him stupid, and then I was just like, haha, and I was like, wait. And I was thinking about it the whole day. And then I I apologized to him in the moment, and then on our walk to the next place, and then on text. And, and I think he was probably now just annoyed that I was apologizing so many times. But that's just and there's so many other mistakes that I make that I don't even know. And it's just like, thank God I don't know all of them.
If you're apologizing that much, he's like, wait, does Andy really think I'm stupid? Because if now he's apologizing so much, it must be true. Like, not to make you feel worse.
No, you're right. Now it's
you probably just made it worse.
Oh no. Maybe that is sort of part of it, is that sometimes when you do make a mistake or you say something, there is a nugget of truth in there. It's not like I actually thought he was stupid, but in that moment I was just like, in a moment maybe I believed it, right? Because that makes the joke better. But then you say it and you're like, oh. No, I don't want to hurt this guy's feelings.
But at the same time, you're also that person that like openly like makes fun of himself, because I do this constantly. Where like I do something, I'm like, here I go. I just pulled a Panico. There's so many things that I've done where I'm like, oh yeah, classic Rob. This is a me thing.
Yeah. Classic Andy, classic Lily. We say that to each other a lot, of just like, oh yeah, that's our thing that we do.
Well, there you go. So it's the joke is definitely from a place of love then, because like there's a kernel of truth, but there's also like a larger kernel of love attached to it.
What it is noticing them, and sort of even the flaws. But then once you can laugh about it, and it took years probably to get there, or to know like not the other person not to be insecure about the joke or something like that. And then it's a lot of times it's like, oh, me owning it before you or Lily or someone could point it out. But that's also just being like, oh yeah, that is funny. Whatever I do, over apologize. But let's go back in the time machine here to Baby Rob. Maybe not quite Baby Rob, but I was just wondering when I think about like being an empath, and it has sort of origins in sci-fi kind of a thing. Like that's when I looked it up just to like try and get like a blanket definition. It was like from science fiction. I'm like, wait.
Counselor Deanna Troi from Star Trek: The Next Generation. She's the empath on the ship. Yeah.
Right. But like I thought about that, and I was like, well, is that a bad message to be like, oh, only someone in sci-fi, meaning outside of reality slightly, can actually feel what other people feel?
Not to get too sci-fi, but in the Dune series, the Bene Gesserit are hyper trained to look at like these little like micro expressions on people's faces and able to almost read their minds, because that's how they're trained. And I always thought that was interesting. And I remember thinking when I was reading the book as a child, I was like, I wonder if I could sharpen my skills in order like to read people's faces. But it turns out the opposite's true. I just kind of have a general like barometer of how people are feeling. But what ends up happening is everybody knows how I feel. I cannot hide a thing. I have the worst poker face ever. Everybody knows how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I think I actually, because we definitely are. I mean, obviously we're different. That's not the podcast of like, hey, Rob and I aren't the same person. Because I am an introvert. And also I think I actually have a good poker face without even knowing it, because I'm able to trick myself. And then how can anyone really know if I'm lying? Because I don't necessarily know. I always hate playing like those like mafia games or things because it takes a lot out of me. But I think I'm like, that was when it's like, I realize I can manipulate people very easily, and people believe me because they assume that I'm a nice person. And that makes me uncomfortable that I can use it so well. But also, I don't know.
Mental note, do not play mafia games with Andy. He's probably you're probably going to end up dead.
Not anymore. Now I've said it. Because I think most people, a lot of it is just expectations. They're just like, oh, Andy won't lie. Like Andy means well. Oh, Andy's not bluffing.
You would probably be really good at Among Us. Like, everybody knows when I'm what kids call sus. Everybody knows when I'm sus, because like I never have any excuse to like, what were you doing in that room all by yourself? I'm like, I was doing the thing. They're like, and everybody ejects me from the ship. I'm like, God.
Oh yeah, Among Us. Okay, yeah, I think
I'm the worst
at
that game. I love it, but I'm very easily identifiable when I'm the imposter.
Well, I mean, that's really good for this show. Because okay, you're just naked man all the time, basically. But I feel like that's probably hard, right? To like not be able to hide how you're feeling.
To my detriment. I feel like in a professional environment, like I've learned to put on like a bit more of a poker face. It's not really a poker face. It's more that like when I'm on set or in a group setting, in like a professional group setting, I'm usually excited to be around those people, around that work. So like I just stay in that energy or stay in that excitement. So it's not so much putting on a poker face. It's just trying to maintain my own like internal energy.
Using the storage.
Exactly. And if I'm truly worried about something, like I will go off to the side with somebody that I trust and be like, oh my God, dude, this is going bad. Or like, I'm concerned about this. Maybe that's wrong. I mean, I try to be, because one thing I learned very quickly, like in the professional world, especially there, like you have to be honest, especially because you are against the clock, and that, bullshitting any emotion or any like worry makes things so much worse. In fact, when I first got to LA, one of the first classes I ever took, I had a professor. She was awesome, and one of the first things she said, like I've taken to heart, and I'd actually would love to like, I don't have any ink on me, but I would love to get this tattooed, because it's a mantra that I try to follow. She goes, if you fuck up with clarity.
Ooh.
And it's like, yes, like, because everyone's gonna make mistakes. Everyone's gonna have big or small mistakes. At least be upfront and honest about it, because it's so much better, especially in the professional world. You have to clear that out of the way, because the next thing you do is to repair and move on.
But also, like, maybe the clarity also comes from just like learning from it. I love that mantra.
It's one of the biggest pearls of wisdom I ever got, and I took it to heart, and I have tried to follow that as much as I can.
Where's the tattoo going?
I think that's a forearm, because it's a long statement. Probably the inner forearm, because if I'm out in public and there's any child and it says the word fuck twice on it, it's probably not the best.
They can deal with it. Back to Baby Rob.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
Very tangential.
No. I think it's all good. I'm just sort of interested in sort of the origin story of it, because in my head it does feel like this sci-fi concept, even though a lot of people have empathic things. And so I was just wondering sort of when you noticed it or when you labeled yourself that.
I think the label came so much later, like God, probably mid to late 20s, I'd say. But I've had these feelings my entire life, as far back as I can remember. I think part of it is because, so when I grew up, I was surrounded by music. My father plays the piano, classically trained pianist for decades, and now so am I. Follow my dad's footsteps right there.
Yeah.
And my mom is super crazy literary mind. I mean, she's read every single book, but also her taste in music is also very wide. And so I grew up with a lot of instrumental music, a lot of classical music. And there's video of me. I must be 2, and I have my blanket in one hand. I'm sucking my thumb, and I'm staring at the radio, and it's the Beethoven Tempest Sonata. And I'm just absorbing every single note. And what I'm hearing is the pure, raw emotion that Beethoven's composing in these notes. And I think because of that, I kind of had trouble comprehending my own language, English. And this sometimes still happens today. I will get distracted by the intonation, the musicality of somebody's voice, and the words will get lost. So my brain is already like kind of just honed into understanding like musicality in a way. Like
wow.
It's almost like emotion in a way. And I think that's because music was embedded in my head at such a young age. I think that's probably where, like, at least the foundations of the empathic comprehension comes from. I think it's because it's all based in music.
And that also sounds similar to like the synesthesia, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do have synesthesia. For me, it's a lot of musical notes are attached to colors, which is like probably the most common form of synesthesia. I also, when I think of concepts in general, like they're all in geometric shapes. Which I think helps me be a good editor because I can see scenes and move them around as blocks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so when I got into digital editing, and that's literally how you cut, is by moving these chunks of video around. I was like, oh, this was made for me, like since I was a baby.
Oh my God, yeah.
So editing was very fluid for me. It was just like, boom, oh, okay, I got it.
And actually, could you give us a definition of synesthesia just for people that have no idea what we're talking about?
Oh yeah, so synesthesia is this like mental abnormality where you associate two different things together. Usually it's something like sounds and colors. So in my case, certain notes like the note D or D major scale or chord for me is very orange. And E is almost like an indigo blue. F is more like a burgundy or even like a henna kind of thing. Like it's more so when I'm playing on a piano, if a piece is going to be very moody, almost set to nighttime, whatever. Okay, E flat, minor, like boom, like I already have the chords picked out.
It's already there
because the color palette's there.
Interesting.
If I'm looking for something a little more aggressive, a little more fanfare, then yeah, I'm gonna go for like D or F because those are like warmer colors. Those are like fiery colors. Like so.
Well, it even sounds like the colors are also emotions too, right? So it's
Absolutely.
Sort of like this continuum.
Mm-hmm. I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. Actually, like it's all attached to emotion. Huh. I just learned something new about myself today.
We did it.
We did it.
All right, now I have to learn something about myself. No.
Yeah.
Everything is a song to you, right?
Yeah.
And not that sounds like I'm sort of putting it in a box, but like that's really cool that you can.
It is, but it's also extremely distracting, especially if I'm really exhausted enough. I'm listening to a meeting or something, and because everybody zones out, but when I'm zoning out, I'm actually listening to the notes of someone's voice, and I'm hearing almost like the musicality, the phrasing of it, and it becomes incredibly distracting because the words are just vapor at that point, and I'm just listening to the flow.
It's the musical version of like the Charlie Brown Adults sort of a thing. Like
yeah. Except everyone's not that. Everybody's like got these amazing instruments they're speaking through.
Even when they're like bored and in like a Zoom meeting, you're just like, wow, this is like so cool.
Oh, it's a symphony on my end. It's wonderful.
Oh man, I want to be in your brain. I think that's my main takeaway.
No, because what happens with me, I lose all the information. I end up messaging people afterwards. I was like, what did he say about that thing? Because I was completely zoned out and listening to the music. It's actually like sometimes it can be a handicap.
Does it sounds like it could almost be mistaken for ADD, kind of?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I actually was, as a child, I was was screened for that just to make sure, because school was boring as shit to me when I was especially early grade school. Like I was drawing things. I was literally planning out movies in my head, making shot lists before I even knew what shot lists were, and not paying attention to school. And a teacher flagged my parents, and she was like, he's doing this stuff. He's not listening to anything I'm saying. And part of me is like, I'm sorry, but like your words were boring, and I'm listening to the music of your voice. Which if I said that, would have sounded like a nice compliment, and she probably would have been nicer to me. But
that would have been so cool. I'm listening to the music of your voice, Miss Jacobs. I don't know.
That's actually very close to what her name was. Whoa, you are in my head. See,
no, that was a Dawson's Creek reference. So that's just it didn't come on purpose. It was just like when I think of a teacher, it's apparently the teacher that Pacey has sex with in season 1. So that's what
definitely
it was.
not what happened to me.
I'm really glad it wasn't. And yeah,
so this is such a tangent. We're talking about childhood. So yeah, there were 2 other moments that happened as far as like empathy goes. One of them was a lesson that I learned very early on about opening up, which is really important for any empath. I think in order to be an empath, you have to be also like very open, because you're so willing to share. Everybody else should be.
Right.
For me, this must have been in 3rd grade. And like I said, I was bored with my schoolwork, but like I wasn't a bad student. I wasn't an asshole about it. It was just like, I was just very...
It was easy for you.
It was just, I was very distracted. Okay. My brain would rather be focusing on more artistic things than learning about, the War of 1812 for the 20th damn time.
Wait, was this... You said this was 3rd grade? We got the War of 1812 in 3rd grade? Is that what you said?
Well, I remember learning about the Titanic in 3rd grade, and then the movie came out like right afterwards. So it was weird timing. I don't know why we were learning about the Titanic in history.
She was a big Cameron head. She's just getting it.
Yeah. But so we get to PE class, which, nobody... Actually, like I would like to meet somebody that actually enjoyed their physics. Do you really? So
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick aside, what about it did you like?
Well, okay. So there's a lot of different things that I didn't like about it, and that was mostly the fact that afterwards I was sweaty and had to.
Yes.
Like I was too afraid to shower, so I never did, and I would I would change my clothes, but I'd still be sweaty, and I always was someone who sweat a lot, and because I gave it my all, I couldn't do like half-ass when it comes to playing in PE. But I think I just liked it because I was good at it. That was it. That was as simple as that. But also I really, and actually I was at one point approached to be like in leadership from my PE teacher, this woman. And because I think that was where like, there's all the sort of like 5 alpha males that sort of dominate your PE class. Oh, yeah. And I was not one of them, but I always cared about everyone else in the class and tried to get them involved. And that was also always the rule to like, everyone has to shoot a ball before, or else you can't win. And I actually took that as like, I took that as my responsibility to do that. And like sort of, and also I could then be the underdog against all these assholes.
Yeah.
And
you're talking about real leadership here, because as real leaders, like it's about unifying a team and working together. Whereas like I feel like the 5 alpha males you're describing or whatever, it's like they're in it for them.
They just want to win.
Yeah, they just want to win, which is not real leadership.
Right. Well, and who cares if you can beat a bunch of kids that don't play basketball? Right. Yeah. Like that doesn't improve. It improves my ego if I can beat them because they care so much. Right. Yes. But and I would see that people play better on my team too, because I actually cared about, I would still be upset if people made mistakes, but I wouldn't be angry. I would just be like, oh man, we were close, and be upset because I was in it.
Yeah.
But that's why I liked PE. But then the body post sweating Andy for the rest of my day, awful. It was always terrible. And it's my fault. I should shower. I just was not comfortable with my body at all.
Yeah, it's funny because this is back in 3rd grade. So we didn't shower in our school, but a lot of our PE class was done in the school gymnasium, which was also the cafeteria. So exactly. So
what?
For me, I grew up as a germaphobe. So we're doing shuttle runs, and I'm also slipping on some dried cherry that was left over from 2 weeks ago. It's disgusting.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So already I'm not loving this experience. And our PE teacher, this guy, I may as well name drop him. His name was Mr. Rap, but of course, none of us liked him. We called him Mr. Crap. Behind his back, never to his face. We were real clever with our insult jokes.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better than going from Mr. Rap to Mr. Crap.
But this guy, like, I mean, in hindsight now, like, I do have sympathy for him. I mean, like, if he got enjoyment out of his job, I'm glad for him. I mean, this is mature Rob talking. But as a kid, I'm thinking, like, what does this guy think? Like he's blowing the whistle, he's making us do these stupid exercises, and he clearly didn't give a shit. So, like, not many of us had actual respect for him. But I don't even know what I did in this class, but I did some. Maybe I was spacing out. Who knows? Because that's what I tend to do. This is why I get screened for ADD. Because like my attention was elsewhere. Again, I don't know what I did, but he singled me out in front of the entire class, and he was just like, "Spend the rest of the class with your nose against the wall." And like I did what I was told, and it was humiliating because I didn't think what I did deserved any kind of punishment like that, and it wasn't anything like really bad. It was just knowing that all my friends just for the rest of the class saw me and I'm just standing there with my nose against the wall, and the rest of my day was ruined. And I was just really quiet, really sullen. I kept replaying the whole scenario back in my head again and again, and I'm thinking, like, am I really that bad? Did I really deserve that? I immediately thought, like, well, he's an authority figure. Yeah, I don't really respect him, but like he wouldn't have done that if I didn't deserve it. And was very quiet when I got home, and when I was in bed, like, my mom could tell. Parents know,
right?
Like, especially when you're that young, like parents know something's up. And I didn't say anything when I got home. I just kind of kept it to myself, and it wasn't until I was in bed I just burst into tears because I'd been holding in all this humiliation for so long. And between the sobs, all my mom got out of me was like, "Mr. Rapp, he did it." My mom thought, "Oh my God, what did this man touch our boy?" For the record, no, absolutely not. That did not happen. This was just the misinterpretation. So of course my dad comes into the bedroom and is just like, "Tell me everything." And I got through the story, and my parents are like, "Oh, thank God, like nothing really nefarious happened," but also like, "Thank you for telling us this." And my parents eventually had a word with the guy. He never looked at me again for the rest of my time at elementary school. But
Scared him.
The point was, I learned, like, opening up about that, even though, like, it seemed like a small thing, it was a small event that had a huge impact on me. And yeah, worse things have happened, worse punishments have happened to students, but for me, it was a big deal. And when I opened up about it, it was a huge relief. And I learned at that age, like third grade, if anything's bothering you, like, go to somebody you trust, tell them right away. So be as open as possible. At that age, I learned that, and I've carried that with me my entire life. Like, I have my emotional confidants that I will open up to.
This isn't the naked response is that I'm jealous because like like every time you open up to someone you trust and you are held in that moment, you are heard. It is the best feeling in the world, and also yes, that's your lesson, right? Is to like, oh, I just need to keep sharing. For some reason, that's always been hard, or I think it was like I maybe trusted the wrong people, or I just didn't get back what I wanted, or what I needed, I guess. Oh man, 8-year-old Rob had it.
Oh, I mean, I didn't know I had it until much later, and I thought, wow, that was a really big small event in my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, because you said you were jealous, like, did you ever run into the scenario where you told somebody something in confidence and they used it against you later at a young age?
In this moment, I don't. Nothing huge. Like,
well,
I'm sorry.
I'm just curious if there's any like trauma related to like opening up.
Like, there's gotta be. That's what I'm. Yeah. But like right now in this moment, like nothing. Like there's not like a big alarm bell. Mm-hmm. I just think maybe a lot of times, whatever it was, I like internalized to keep it in. Mm-hmm. And because I think sometimes my emotions or feelings were either minimized or maximized. So it was either like, if I'm upset, it was just sort of like, oh, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Life's tough. Mm-hmm. Or it was like, don't be so sensitive, like the maximizing side of like, calm down, or like, when I'm like saying like, that's unfair. Like what you're talking about with Mr. Rapp, that I'm always injustice, or at least perceived injustice on my end, which I've learned that, I am not, my perspective is not the be all end all, certainly. But like that is something that I'm always been, it really upsets me. And so when someone is, just responds by either saying like, oh, life's not fair, it's like, oh, okay, well then I learn not to share that. Or the other way, like, oh, you're being ridiculous. You're, don't be so sensitive. It's sort of like, those don't sort of lead me to want to tell more.
You can still, in a way, tell people, well, life's not fair. Because, I mean, that's just look, we live in a cold,
it's true,
harsh world. I mean, like, but everybody knows that. But like, when you reach out to somebody, like, you don't want to be told the obvious. You already know that,
right?
Like,
right.
Like, we all know that at our core. That's partly why we're so upset, because we're like, this is so unfair. This is so cold. But what everyone's looking for is just emotional validation. Like, that's the first thing that they have to hear. That they're like, I'm in pain. I need you to acknowledge it. No matter who you're talking to, like, you want that person to acknowledge it. So like, when someone comes to you with any kind of pain, major or minor, first thing you have to do is just like understand how they feel and be like, I understand, like, I hear you, this is awful.
Right. Validate where they are, and that it's just like, oh man, that sounds really terrible.
Exactly.
I don't like, I feel so bad for 8-year-old Rob.
Yeah, he got over it. Life's not fair. 8-year-old Rob, suck it up, you little piece of shit.
Wow. Wow. So you get to destroy yourself? Is that?
Yeah. He's built a thick skin since then.
Oh, well, why? Why has he built up a thick skin?
Actually, no. That's absolutely a lie. I mean, a thicker skin, but
right.
I think my skin is pretty malleable, even since then. Yeah, I mean that's still something that I struggle with. I think because like I take things positive or negative like to the extreme a lot of times, and like I react very strongly to things, and maybe that's because I'm Italian, maybe it's because I'm an artist type, or I have no idea. It's just the way I was built. But
it's like sort of like everything is personal kind of thing. Is that sort of what makes it extreme, mm-hmm. right? I think I have the same thing sometimes. Yeah.
One of the key factors that I always fail to remind myself is that when something happens to you, it weighs down on you heavily, and you're thinking what other people think, or like, you know, how's this going to affect things moving forward? When in reality, those other people, they're busy thinking about themselves. They don't give a shit about you. Like, really, I mean, in a nice way.
Right. No, like they just have their own mistake that they're in their head about.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the thought loops that are happening, they are not doing that. You're doing that. You know, so, and it's something that I fail to remind myself of, especially in a professional environment. If I make one mistake, I am almost frozen because I'm like, oh, I did that thing. I shouldn't have done that. And everyone else has already moved on because they're focused on the project. They're not focused on you at all.
Right. And they also don't have like, you know, the history book of Rob's mistakes where they know that you've done that mistake 100 times, right? They're just like, oh, you did that, whatever, who, you know, but like you have the backstory of like, oh, this is my thing.
That is a thick book.
Well, congratulations. I think that's good, right? Like, especially if we can read the book, you know, see these mistakes. There's already, I think we probably have 7 in this episode, you know?
Oh, yeah. I think that's what's both the blessing and the curse of being an empath is that you will understand and forgive people so much more easier than you'll forgive yourself. I am you know that phrase, you know, you are your worst critic. I mean, like, this is like to the extreme with me. The things I will say to myself, like I would never say to any human being on the face of the planet, like no matter how horrible they are. Well, give or take a few. There's some people in the world.
There's some people maybe deserve those things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wish I could say it to their face. But
well, that sounds very familiar. I'll just say like what you're saying, the like your own worst enemy type thing.
Oh,
that's me for sure. Yeah.
I am my biggest critic. It's a constant voice that is constantly judging or thinking like, yeah, okay, you. Especially with music, like I will be working on a phrase and it's like, sometimes in order to make something new, I have to just play something that I've kind of done a million times already. And that voice will just be saying, you're just repeating yourself. Like you're so uncreative. Like no one's going to listen because it's all going to sound like the same shit. And I have to just try to force that voice out of my head and be like, this is part of the process. Shut the hell up. Go away. He's still there. He's always going to be there. In order to help myself through this, I actually had to like give that voice a personality or like even like a status. And
interesting.
I came up with this concept that if my head is like an apartment space or whatever, there's me, the core person. This guy's renting the room and he's always out, comes back drunk, throws up all over the floor, just destroys my place, clogs the toilet. There's all these horrible things or whatever. And I'm constantly cleaning up after him. And sometimes he'll be out for days. I'm like, thank God, a little bit of rest. I don't have to think about.
He went on vacation.
He went on vacation for a while. Sometimes he's there and he is partying all night in the apartment by himself and he didn't give a shit about you. And it's this horrible side of myself that will never go away. You can't kick the roommate out. But
we can't evict the roommate? Does he pay rent?
I think that's the one problem with this metaphor is I'm trying to figure out like how does the rent situation work? Because I could easily just get this guy kicked out.
We need to get you a new roommate.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was going to ask you because this came up in therapy for me. Was she basically was just like, Have you ever wondered if you're in an abusive relationship with yourself?
That's very interesting.
And what you just said sounds exactly kind of
Absolutely.
like that, right? That roommate is, I mean, it's you, obviously,
Yeah.
but like, it's very easy. We're so used to it.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
You know, God, that's really insightful. I may need the number of your therapist.
Oh man, my goal is to have her on. I don't know how that would happen. I'm going to say it out loud here and hope that she hears and she's like, Andy, I don't know. Sounds narcissistic of you. I don't think so.
See, yeah, there's the voice coming through right there.
Right. Yeah. That was the roommate. Yeah. I think the idea of just an actual therapy session just recorded, it wouldn't be a special one.
That would be really interesting.
I mean, I'm sure there are some of those, and maybe this is the roommate saying like, "Oh, it's not that good of an idea. It's been done, whatever." But
I would listen to that like the second it came out. You better let me know when that episode drops because I'm gonna be listening to that.
All right.
Yeah, you got my thumbs up for that.
There we
concept.
go. It might not even make the episode, but it now crystallized that as an idea. That's for me the most important thing, right? I think you probably the same way where you have like a billion ideas and you love them all. You love them all. And you share them maybe more often than you should. And those are the things where like, I need to get this. They're not ready for the world yet, right? And so I take it seriously, but I'm also like, oh yeah, it wasn't that good of an idea once I say it. But I'm also like, no, fuck you. Like,
Have you ever had the thing where like you get a really good idea and then like the more you think about the plotting of it, you're thinking like, oh my God, yes, this is something that could blow everybody away. This is one of the more creative ideas I've ever had. Then you start going through the logistics of pulling it off, and you just watch that balloon deflate, and you just sit there and you're like, oh man, I can never pull this off. This is where the detriment of being an empath comes into play, because I start to think, I'm gonna ask how many people have spent how many hours working on this thing for me. I can't ask people to do that. That's terrible. It's a waste of their time. And I start to mind read, think for them, and I never pursue it. It's a mental block called mind reading, where like you will assume things about other people. And for me, that this runs amok because I will start to assume what they feel because my empathic tendencies. But what I'm actually doing is like I'm just wielding it haphazardly, and like I can often be wrong.
Shit. 100% of that is me.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't think it was actually called mind reading, but yeah, like especially even when I argue with people, I'm sort of I'm telling them what they're doing to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I think often I might be right, but I'm also, that's not me to say. I always forget that like, oh wait, what were you feeling? What am I feeling? I'm just like, no, you did this to me. But also the same idea. Like, that's why, I mean, you probably could tell anytime that I've asked for help on this project, I've been I don't like doing it.
You're so polite. I can tell you're squeamish about it. Yeah, which is fine because I am too.
Yeah, because asking anyone to help, to do anything feels wrong.
Yeah.
That's the word. And it's I think it is this like, doesn't feel like I'm worthy. Also, they have time, they have life. And it's the mind reading thing. It's like, I'm assuming that they can't say no.
Yep.
Or like that they will have to say yes and feel guilted in doing it. Because I think partly I do that for other people sometimes. So then I feel like we're all the same. It just feels like I have too much power in my head when I'm doing that. It's like, oh no, I don't want to ask because then they'll say yes. And maybe the real fear is, that's the fear, right? That they'll say yes and they'll actually do this. Yep. And then you're like, oh shit, now I have to do it.
Yep.
Oh man, it's easier to not do it. And then you can say, it's so hard. So I think I wanted to know, like, because I mean, you're saying you've lived your life basically open, and obviously it's you've said it like kind of ebbs and flows, and you're not always, the door is probably not always wide open. Yes. But I was just wondering, I mean, my experience, boys, men, it's hard to be open with them, right? Like, how has that been? Like, has it been scarring? Have you lost friends, or like, how does? Yeah.
I think actually, I've gained a lot of friends. By the end of my high school year, I knew a lot of people. I was friends with all these people. They were all wonderful. And I mean, contrasting where I started in freshman year, getting hazed at the gym locker room. Another reason I hated PE. I was actually singled out by a group of guys. I think because I was just so like happy, goofy, excited energy. They're like, "Fuck this guy," because they were miserable.
Right.
They were all miserable. I feel sorry for them because I was getting I was getting happy over the smallest little things. Like the smallest little things can make me so happy.
Well, those are the best things.
Yeah.
And that's when you're actually noticing the world.
That's the thing. Yeah, I think my mindfulness back when I was younger was a lot more present than it is now. Now my brain is like way far into the future, and I'm trying to rope myself back into the present. I think that's where a lot of my anxiety comes from, honestly.
Oh yeah, I think anxiety is either the past or the future. It's never
yeah.
when you're in the moment. There's nothing to be anxious about because we're just here.
We're just here. It's another reason I wanted to do this. This is like one of the most mindful activities I've done in so long. It's just conversations. This is another reason why COVID's made everybody so anxious. We're not having conversations. We're not present. Like it's Anyway, back to that. So I think it's my willingness, my openness to sharing and just talking about anything and everything. It actually loosened up a lot of the male friends in my life. Like they were actually like able to talk about things with me. I had a really, like he was my best friend in high school. He was going through a lot at home. I don't want to get into the details, but
right.
I was there for a lot of it. One of the few regrets I have in life, and I think regrets are kind of stupid in many ways because like you can't change anything. So like why you killing yourself over these
My
past
favorite
mistakes.
thing to collect are regrets.
Oh, regrets, yeah.
They're free.
Yeah.
No, anyway.
But I think one of the things that like this was such a painful experience, and like I know what he was going through, but he just because of like his background and stuff, he just wouldn't want to open up that much, and I always gave him that space, but like kind of tried to signal him that if you want to talk about this, I'm here, but I never said that, and I should have, and it's one of the few regrets I have. My empathic powers weren't into superpowers yet. Like I was still like developing them.
That was your Uncle Ben moment.
Yeah. With great empathy comes great.
Yeah. I mean, just responsibility
nakedness.
Still. Yeah, great. That's it. I think the lesson from what you're saying, because it was sort of like surprising. It's sort of like my idea was like, oh man, Rob as an empath as a kid was probably really hard life. That just feels really hard. And I think that's what I've always told myself if I was that open or honest. It was like, oh, I'm just going to get the shit kicked out of me. I'll be like the hazed kid, like you mentioned. It'll be that version all the time.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense that like basically you care about everyone that you meet. You're befriending everyone. You're the extrovert.
Yep.
And of course they'll care about you back. And that's really as simple as it gets.
Yeah.
And you didn't have an ulterior motive. It was just...
I think that's I think that's what people realize, and this is something that I think in college it got me a little temporary trouble with my professor, because when they first met me, I was people are always kind of taken aback about how into it I am. Like I'm the guy who was like always raising the hand, and I had something to say, or and I think some professors looked at me kind of thinking like, is he just trying to like brown nose himself into getting an A in this class? But then they realized after a couple weeks, like, no, I actually genuinely cared.
Right, that's even like the compliment that I mentioned. Like when you came to Lily and I was just like, not that you were brown nosing me or whatever, but it was sort of like it was hard to take that at face value, but it's the exact same journey of like, oh yeah, Rob meant that, and that just only makes it that much more special. Yeah.
I remember that night very clearly. We were at the jazz night. I invited you and Lily to come out drinks with me and listen to a live jazz, and even just like I just remember just seeing you two walk in. There was just like this like you two have this like wonderful bonded energy that I it's just so magical to me, and I was just like, I have to say something. Maybe the alcohol helped a little bit, but I had to say something because it things like that don't get said enough about people.
I'm trying to take that for to heart, and also not deny it and be like, because my instinct is to be like, well, we had like a fight probably like 5 minutes before you said that, But and we're not perfect, but that's not what you were saying.
Nobody is.
Yeah, exactly. But it's sort of like my fraud comp, the roommate starts talking. It's like, oh, come on. What are you talking about? You accidentally called Lily a bitch yesterday. And it's like, no. So
sometimes you just got to slam that door on that roommate and be like, go to your room, asshole.
The roommate has a really strong memory. I do not.
Oh, they have a little black book, and they're like, let's see, chapter 23. You do this. Stop reminding me.
Yeah, I remember what hurt and what was bad, but I don't remember what was good, Because that's why I feel like I'm always learning these lessons that are like helpful again and again.
Yeah.
Because the roommate like threw away the keys. I'm loving this metaphor, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Just going back to the being younger, being... empathic. It was a struggle because I was just a sensitive kid, like from the very get-go, extremely sensitive to everything, which I think being open like became my armor, because like then people couldn't use my own emotions against me, because I was like, yeah, like everybody knows that, everybody can see that I'm feeling this way. Like so what's your point? I think that's partly like how it developed, because I was sensitive, and I did get picked on. Everyone gets picked on as a kid.
Right.
And at first, I would take and not say anything and think, oh God, they're right. But then after a while, I was like, yeah, so what? That is me. And this especially came through in high school, where I realized I was like, yeah, like I think it's actually a line from the opening of the first episode of Game of Thrones, where Tyrion says, take your weakness and wear it like armor, and nobody can hurt you. But it's 100% true. Being sensitive, like I learned much later, like is not a weakness at all. Actually, it was a hidden strength I didn't realize that I had.
Yeah, my therapist, basically said that, yeah, sensitivity is your superpower. That is, and I think it's all of ours if we're brave enough to use it.
Absolutely. You asked me before this if there was anything that inspired me, like, to be myself, any movies or something that did it. And like there is one, this is well before high school, but there was I told you about the 1985 movie Explorers.
Oh yeah.
So this movie stars like a really young Ethan Hawke. He's like 13 or something. He's a child. It's crazy. Long and short of it, it's a science fiction fantasy adventure where Ethan Hawke's character is having dreams of this circuit board. It's like early 80s like CGI. And he has a scientist nerd friend played by the late, great River Phoenix.
Oh, so good.
He's so good in this, by the way. He's a nerd, a science kid. He puts it together, and this computer chip that he dreamed of creates a force field, and they can control its size and like where the direction of it. And they think, why don't we build something that we can put inside this bubble, and we can basically like fly around with our own spaceship. Point is, the main character, Ethan Hawke, he's a dreamer. Which is very literal in this movie. He's a science fiction nerd, and the opening scene, he's asleep and War of the Worlds is playing on TV. You see he has like magazines everywhere. At River Phoenix's house, he stored all of his magazines down there because his dad thought he threw them away. Like clearly, like this is a thing. A nerd is something to be ashamed of. Which now in the present, it's a badge of honor to be a nerd about something.
Right.
God, how times have changed. It's crazy in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
But his character is so like, he meets this kid in the beginning of the movie he's like, you want to come over to my place? I had this movie called This Island Earth. And it's got this alien with like these two brains. It's awesome. And like,
Metaluma.
And the kid is like, yeah, sounds great. And he like drives off on his motorbike. And I feel like that right there was absolutely me. Because like how many people I went up to, I'm like, you should see this movie, or you should like do this thing. And they're like, yeah, okay. What a
yeah, I'm going to be on my motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I remember seeing that character, seeing this person who's like unabashedly in love with his passions. Like no matter how many, he was getting zero validation around him. Nobody ever validates like him. Really. Yeah. Even at the end of the movie, no one really validates his love of science fiction, other than that they actually build a spaceship and go to space,
which is pretty good validation.
Pretty good validation, yeah.
But not like to his face saying like, "Thank you for dreaming this," or "Thank you for."
Exactly. I remember just thinking like that gave me permission to be myself, to be weird, no matter what, and so. I was a sensitive kid who was really into instrumental music. I hated music on the radio. Now looking back, I love that music. In hindsight, it's actually pretty great. Yeah, I was just unashamed of how weird and sensitive I could be. And yeah, so when people were messing with me about me being a sensitive child, it was just like, I wanted to be like Ethan Hawke's character. It was just like, no, this is me. You're not going to change that. Like, I don't care. I don't need validation for how I feel. And I think that allowed my empathic tendencies to blossom really strongly. So by the time I got to college especially, I jokingly had like therapy sessions in my dorm room because people would have, guys and girls have problems. They come over, they like air out their grievances to me, and I'd just sit there and listen because they needed someone to listen to.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me more about that. So like, did they schedule a time?
No, like usually it was God, we were still using like AOL Instant Messenger.
Oh yeah,
So like
I
get a little ping and like hey, you around? Like yeah, and like I hear a knock at the door, and then be like, hey, what's going on? And people would just be like, oh man, I'm stressed out about this thing, or like I'm having problems with my boyfriend, kind of thing. And it was like, tell me more. Like do you want me to talk to him? I would be there for people as much as I could because that made me feel so good to be helping.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also, like you said at the beginning, it sort of is also kind of giving you energy, right? And you're
Absolutely.
not lonely.
Not at all.
Yeah. Was there a name for like Rob's sessions? Did it have like, was it formal
one of my best friends? She used to joke and she would call it like a thanks for the therapy session. And like we would always laugh about that because it kind of became that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've definitely had conversations with people at the end where I'm like, well, I'm not really your therapist, but I guess you're welcome, you know? I'm interested in the relationships you've had with women, you know, sort of romantic relationships with the empath.
Yeah.
Because this is where I sometimes have had problems with with Lily or other people where it was like before I even knew what it was. It's sort of if they were anxious, I'm now anxious and I'm like blaming them. I'm angry. I'm also like, what's happening? And I'm calling out their anxiety and they don't even know they're anxious yet.
It kind of depends on the scenario, but like my empathic spidey senses will go off and I will detect something like before it becomes full blown. And sometimes that ends up becoming mind reading and I get the whole thing wrong. And
exactly.
It ends up spiraling into something bad. Other times I will be accurate, but then I don't know how to handle it. I'll start shutting down thinking, oh God, I don't want this to be a tense moment. Because of that, like I become overly sensitive. Sometimes it develops into like more of a defensive pose. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be pulled into this, but like what you're supposed to be there for is to validate and air out this stuff to me. Like I'm here for you.
Right.
And it depends on the scenario, but sometimes I'm having a weak moment and something bad happens and I can't handle it. And I think sometimes I think the problem with being an empath, you have a tendency to mind read and then try to like nip it in the bud, and that ends up causing that makes it so much worse. And I'm very guilty of that.
That's what I've been figuring out that I do. But like sometimes, it doesn't help if I'm right because it's sort of it becomes about me being right somehow.
I was going to say, it develops into sort of an ego thing, which we all have, and it becomes a pride thing. That's where it gets me into so much trouble.
Right.
I think the reverse also happens too, where this is more in the past, but like if I'm so open and I'm in a relationship or even dating someone who is not as open, I start to become suspicious because I'm like, what is it that they're not telling me? Because I'm so upfront and open about like what I'm up to. Or I start to become really sad because I'm like, this person doesn't trust me enough to open up. And it's
your fault, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Then it becomes all about, and the roommate's just like, you're doing this, dude. I'm like,
so she'd open up to you if you were actually a good person.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Like the reason she doesn't trust you enough to open up is because you haven't been showing yourself as more trustworthy. Whereas like the real issue here is that like this other person just isn't open like I am, and it's nobody's fault. There's just two opposites right there. And I've had a lot of relationships like come apart, and like that's kind of been at the core of it, is like it comes down to like trust issues. And I think part of it is just like openness. So like for me, like I try to be open because I want people to trust me, to know that I don't have any ulterior motives. Like this is just Rob. No matter how I react or what I say, like it's coming from a genuine place. Like I'm not trying to bullshit you. And the hope is that they can also open up and trust me and show their trust to me back, which is what real friendship is. It's trust no matter what the situation is. I think this is honestly partly why therapy is so successful, because like it is about trusting another person with information.
It's learning about yourself. And, you know, I think you and I both share a zen or a love of learning, and we're passionate about everything else. Let's be passionate about ourselves too. And figure out why we are the way we are.
Absolutely. I'm sure this has been said more eloquently by
no one has ever
else.
said what you're about to say, Rob.
No, it's just this phrase that I came up with myself, but like I'm sure it's already been said, but I felt clever when I said it. But like we really are all forever students in the school of life. When we graduate, we die. So
that's why I don't want to stop learning.
Exactly. Yeah.
I hope to never stop learning about you, Rob, and continue this friendship.
Likewise.
And I wanted to ask you, what do you need in a friendship, or what do you want?
I think it's what everybody wants. Like, it doesn't even have to be, I think this is also the caveat, it never has to be like instant. I think in today's information culture, like we expect a text back or a call back like immediately. For me, with friendship, just a listening ear. Whenever you have the time, I have something to say or I have something to ask, whatever, I trust you'll get back to me whenever you can. And I think I expect the same back to me. Like when people reach out to me, sometimes I'm not going to get back to you right away. Oh. That's not a personal thing. That's just, I'm in the middle of something. Just know that like I'm always there to listen, and I will get back to you.
I really appreciate that, because I have that same, I identify with that a lot. And I think It takes a long time for me to sometimes respond to messages or emails or things because I actually want to have something to say back.
That's the other thing. Sometimes like I will read something, I think like, oh, this is heavy. I want to give them the respect to give them a proper response. But like right now I'm driving or I'm in the middle of shit. It's like, I want to actually like set aside time to respond properly. And I wish there was a phrase that we could use. Like, as we used to use BRB, but it's like
yeah, we need that. We need like a mental BRB. Like
we do something that illustrates like.
Well, it's just like I care about you, but I don't have time.
Yeah, like
right now.
I care about you. I want to respond, but I can't right now. There's got to be some kind of eloquent.
I see. It'd be a really long. That helps me too. So I will say the same thing back. Like I mean, it sounds great because like it's sort of trusting that the other person cares about the other person. Mm-hmm. Not judging the other person if it takes a week to respond or 2 minutes, whatever it is. I want you to be doing Rob's stuff and probably the same. You want me to be doing Andy's stuff. Yeah. And then when we get to be doing Rob and Andy's stuff, that's great.
It's wonderful. It's
magic. Here's to more of that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this with me. This was
Andy,
fun.
Thank you. I've been really excited to actually be on this podcast.
Was that the reason you said yes to the music so you could be on? No, I'm kidding. I know that's not you. Rob's not done sharing, not by a long shot. He asked me if he could share one of his songs at the end of our episode, to which I said, without hesitation, hell yes. So, here's the debut of Rob's fantastic new single, As the Sun Bid Farewell, the opener to his forthcoming EP, Twilight Liminal. Twilight Liminal is an ambient electronic record about transitions in that precious, fleeting space of time between day and night. God, I'm so honored that Rob would trust me with his art. And if you're like me and you dug it, Rob's first EP, Low Downtown Sun, is available on Spotify, and it's rad, a wistful, romantic groove. And I'm so grateful for Rob for joining me and trusting me, and to you all for listening to our conversation. As the landlord to my own brain, I'm now at work finding ways to evict that troublesome roommate and using my sensitivity as armor. I'll let you know how it goes. One of the great joys of this podcast so far has been the new collaborators I've been blessed to work with, and Rob has been incredibly generous with his precious time and energy. The highest compliment I can give is that he makes asking for help easy. If you want more Rob, you can find the soundtrack to Rob's life and all others on the Naked Man Spotify page. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tell all your friends and fellow explorers. And if you want to join our community, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at NakedManPod, and don't hesitate to reach out to us at nakedmanpod@gmail.com. Or if you have any thoughts and feelings you'd like to share, like how you got rid of your roommate, or how you learned to be more open, or how, like me, you're struggling to do these things, call the Naked Man phone line at 747-231-7120. Next time on the Naked Man podcast, I return with another Naked Monologue. Who knows what it's about? I sure don't. But in the meantime, as my dad always says, be sweet. This episode of the Naked Man podcast was conceived by Andy Green in collaboration with Robert Panico. The Naked Man podcast is a podcast. You knew that. The Naked Man is a podcast hosted, created, and produced by me, Andy Green. All music was composed by Robert Panico, and all graphics were created by Christopher Miles.